George Pickens, you have officially been sunned by Tyson Campbell. So the Jacksonville Jaguars dropped their second preseason game so far, losing last night to the Pittsburgh Steelers 16-15. And the loss doesn't so much bother me. I always just want to see progression, and I want to see a lot of great things out of the team, whether it's from the first team starters on both offense and defense. Also, what's just going on with the backups and some of these guys trying to make the roster. So I'm going to be talking about the good, the bad, and I'm also going to be giving some shout outs to some players at the end that really stood out to me, and also just some last minute takeaways I took away from this game. So I'm going to start with the good with the Jaguars, and the first thing that comes to mind is the reliable wide receivers. I think that this team has done a lot better addressing the skill position players. We saw guys like Dan Arnold getting involved, Zay Jones. Christian Kirk had a very solid and productive first game with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He looked like a reliable and dependable target, and he's a guy that a lot of Jaguar fans are counting on to have a big season, and for him to eclipse 1,000 yards in a season for the first time. Very solid output from Christian Kirk in his first game with the Jaguars. Then you look at other guys who've done a really good job in the receiving corps with guys like Tim Jones as well, a guy trying to make the roster as well. Jamal Agnew came back, which I'm happy to see him come back off his hip injury because I love Jamal Agnew. Me and all my homies, we love Jamal Agnew. And the rest of this receiving core has just done a really good job. Zay Jones as well too, big play Zay. I've been thoroughly impressed with the way the receivers have been doing. Not a lot of drops out there in general, and it looks like these receivers are doing a great job trying to help Trevor Lawrence out the best that they can. And the second good thing I took away from this game was the pass protection. The pocket has been relatively clean for Trevor Lawrence in all of these games I've seen so far. Trevor Lawrence's pocket presence has gotten a lot better. You can see he's a lot more comfortable in the pocket. Not really sure if that's a product of the system or just him learning and growing and getting used to the speed of the NFL game, but the offensive line in terms of pass protection has done a very good job. I'll get into Juwan Taylor and Walker Little a little bit towards the end of the right tackle position, but overall I've been really impressed with the way the pass protection's been with the offensive line. And the last great thing I took away from this game was the third down efficiency. The Jaguars did a great job converting on third down with the first team and second team out there on both sides of the ball. Jags went 10 of 20 on third down, and it looked like every time the Jaguars needed to convert on third down, maybe outside of the red zone, the Jaguars were able to convert. You get Trevor Lawrence scrambling out of the pocket, getting a first down with his legs. You see Marvin Jones Jr. coming in clutch, doing a great job catching in a couple balls, getting Zay Jones out there involved. Just a lot of great guys coming in there and helping out on third down. Now getting into the bad side of things, the first thing I got to talk about is with Trevor Lawrence, his slow start to the ball game and also his inconsistencies as well too. There was two noticeable throws that Trevor Lawrence had that were just outside of the reach of Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk ran two phenomenal routes getting to the outside, and it looks like Trevor Lawrence just barely missed them off his fingertips. I think that's something, not really a chemistry issue, that's just Trevor Lawrence, hey, take your time, just put a little bit more air under that ball or put it in a little bit better spot for your receiver to be able to go out there and make a play. Trevor Lawrence did struggle a little bit, but I'm not going to sit here and overreact to that at all. I think he made up for it with a lot of other great throws. Trevor Lawrence also had one beautiful throw, the best throw by far of the night, over the top of the defender, and Christian Kirk, or maybe it was Marvin Jones, reached out and just grabbed it. It was a beautiful throw by Trevor, but 14 of 21, I think he had an 84 QBR rating on a scale of 1 to 100. Trevor Lawrence had a very solid game. I'm not going to sit here and overreact to that. He's got to get a little bit better, and there was a couple of them that he could have put a little bit more air under, but overall, Trevor Lawrence got to be a little more consistent there, but I'm not overreacting to it. I think he still had a very solid and productive game considering that we got Christian Kirk back, Jamal Agnew back, and then we'll see what happens when James Robinson gets back as well. The second bad thing I took away from this game, and I was a little bit disappointed with, was the run blocking. I praised the pass blocking. I thought the protection was great. The run blocking needs to do a lot better. Travis Etienne, a lot of times, he has the explosiveness to be able to get outside and to be able to get through the tackles, but there was a lot of times where the run blocking just got stuffed up immediately at the line of scrimmage and they didn't win that battle, and the defensive line was getting into the backfield. The run blocking needs to do a lot better, especially once James Robinson gets back, because we saw Travis Etienne break a couple of tackles. We saw Snoop Connor going out there and doing his thing as well too, but the run blocking seriously needed to be a little bit better. I want to see some more consistency there as well, and I know we still got a lot of new guys on this offensive line, but the run blocking is something I still want to see some improvement with. And then the last bad thing is with Ryan Santoso, the kicker. We saw Fry, I think, got cut last week because he had an injury, and then that really left Santoso out there. He went 2 of 4, made a 53-yarder, missed a 51-yarder, and then he missed another field goal earlier in the game too. The Jaguars have a serious kicking problem. This is something I never really addressed on the channel, but it's been concerning me even prior to the preseason and prior to even training camp coming up when we were back in OTAs, because once we waive Matthew Wright, I was seriously concerned about the kicking position because it's such an underrated part of any team. You look at all these great teams with guys like Mason Crosby and Justin Tucker, Robbie Gould, and just all these phenomenal kickers across the league. A kicker can seriously cost you 3 to 5 games a season, or they can win you 3 to 5 games a season because kicking is that important, especially with the way the extra point is nowadays. The kicking position needs to be addressed, and the Jaguars have to get another guy in here as soon as possible. I am not comfortable with Santosa going in there week 1. Now, 2 quick takeaways I have in general is I'm glad to see Jamal Agnew back. Like I said, that's my boy. I love Jamal Agnew. Me and all my homies, we love Jamal Agnew. It was nice to see him go in there and get a catch on that first play back in there. But I also want to see Jamal Agnew on special teams come week 1, right? I don't want to see Laviska Shenault out there returning punts. I don't want to see Willie Johnson out there returning kickoff returns, or Chris Claybrooks, who actually is not that bad on special teams. I want to see Jamal Agnew out there. He's the biggest and most explosive athlete that we have on this team for the special teams, for returning punts, returning kick returns. That is Jamal Agnew's job. Once week 1 comes around, he better be out there doing that on special teams. And then I said I would address the right tackle position, and when it comes to Jawan Taylor and Walker Little, I'm leaning more Jawan Taylor right now. He's in a contract year as well too, and I don't mind Walker Little being in there, being the swing tackle if Cam Robinson or Jawan Taylor ends up going down, knock on wood. But I think I'm a little more comfortable right now with Jawan Taylor. I've seen what he can do. He still has a holding problem, but I think Jawan Taylor, as of right now, I've still seen a little bit better protection out of him, at least in terms of the pass blocking. And if you've paid attention closely in these 2 preseason games, he's done a lot better because I've praised the pass blocking, and Jawan Taylor's been a big part of that as well too. Walker Little's had his moments, but as of right now, I'm still leaning a little more Jawan Taylor, and that's just where I'm at right now with it. Personally, that's up to the coaching staff. I trust that they'll make the best decision, but as of right now, I'm leaning Jawan Taylor, and it's his job to lose at the right tackle position. Now I want to give some shout outs to some players that really stood out to me as well. I'm going to first give a shout out to Snoop Connor as well too. Didn't have the best game statistically speaking, but so far throughout the preseason, he looks like he's going to be a very good and solid rotational back, and he's got a very similar game and skill set to a guy like James Robinson. He's been holding the fort down as well too, while Robinson's still coming back from that Achilles injury, so I want to give a shout out to him. I'd also like to give a shout out to Gregory Jr. as well too. One of our late round picks in this year's draft out of Weecha Baptist. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Excuse me if I didn't. He hasn't done that great in training camp, and Buster Brown has also shown some flashes as well throughout the preseason, but Gregory Jr. led the team in tackles last night too, making a lot of solid plays. I was happy to see that out of him as well too. Next up, I'd like to give a shout out to CJ Beathard, man. He's done a great job every time he's gone in there and played, and I'm super grateful that, you know, his injury wasn't too serious in training camp when he suffered it too. I'm very comfortable if CJ Beathard ever has to go in there and get some snaps, and I hope that's never the case, but CJ Beathard's been a great veteran so far, and I'm very comfortable with him, and I'm very pleased from what I've seen out of him so far. I also want to give a shout out to Christian Kirk as well too. I know I already talked about him, but I was thoroughly impressed with Christian Kirk's debut. He looks like the receiver that the Jaguars paid for. I don't want to hear the Jaguars reset the wide receiver market, and Christian Kirk did that. He's looking like at 25, 26 years of age, whatever he's at, he's looking like he's going to be a very solid and foundational piece to Trevor Lawrence and this wide receiver core moving forward. Was very excited to see what Christian Kirk was doing last night. Next up, I want to give a shout out to Arden Key, man. He has shined and flourished throughout preseason so far as well. And I saw an interview just a couple weeks back. I don't know if it was with the Jaguars or with 1010XL, but he was calling everyone out, saying that, hey, look, you know, the defensive line, we came out here sluggish today. During training camp, we did not have a good day. We looked very lethargic out there. He's holding guys accountable. Arden Key had alluded to the fact in that interview that, you know, back in San Francisco, guys like Eric Armstead and Fred Warner and Bosa, these guys keep each other in check, and they keep this whole defensive team in check. And that's what the kind of veteran leadership that this Jaguars team needs. And he's doing a great job with that too. He's shined, he's flashed, and he's going to be an amazing third down pass rusher. You saw him go in there and get that sack earlier on Mitchell Trubisky on that third down. And Arden Key has just been a great guy. I'm super excited. He might have been one of the more underrated pickups for the Jaguars this offseason. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to Tim Jones as well too. Wide receiver, he has done a lot of great things, not just in the possession catches, but also run after catch. Tim Jones has really shined, and I'm surprised I haven't seen a lot of Jeff Cotton Jr. as well too. But Tim Jones is really turning some heads, and he has an actual opportunity to make this roster. I don't think Laquan Treadwell would be the odd man out. I think Laquan Treadwell is still a very valuable receiver to this team. I think Laviska Shenault would be the one out, honestly, and I hate to say it like that. I'm just going to be super blunt. Laviska has a lot to prove to me. I'm not rooting against the guy, but there's a lot that remains to be seen with Laviska Shenault. And Tim Jones, 5 catches, 70 yards in last night's game, but also just the athleticism and his ability to get away from tackles. I know Laviska has a similar skill set, but Tim Jones has been a lot more consistent, and maybe he's got the higher upside. That's up to the coaching staff. But as of right now, Tim Jones has done a phenomenal job. Laviska Shenault's got to step it up. I need to see some more opportunities out of him, and he's got a lot to prove this season. But Jaguar fans, that's it for this video. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what are your guys' takeaways from this game, because the Jaguars will be going up to Atlanta doing some joint practices this week prior to their last preseason game before we get ready for week 1 at the Washington Commanders. If you guys did enjoy today's video, make sure you guys drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe button to stay tuned for more NBA and of course Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. But Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.